All right, everyone, welcome into 3304 Daily, our first official week. If you guys do not know, I'm Dan Steinbach. I'm a third-year student. I currently am in the College of Engineering, working in industrial and systems engineering. We want to go around the room here, kind of get you guys set up with the team. I myself will be full-time. I want to throw to my other full-time cohort. I want to throw to Ryan Wilkes. He will be our full-time producer. Ryan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm a junior in sports media. I'm from Salem, Virginia, and this is something we've been talking about doing for a while now, so it's really exciting to get it started.
All right, then we're going to throw to our co-host for the day. This is Julian Ferdman. He is part of 3304 Sports here. Julian, tell us a little about yourself.
All right, what's going on, everybody? I'm Julian. I'm a sophomore from New York City. I'm in sports media and analytics, and I'm really excited to be involved, even in a part-time way. So,
Very excited, very excited. You guys might know me from the podcast. My longtime companion doing that is Colbjorn Bergstrom. He is on crew with us today. He is doing a segment for us at the bottom of the hour right after we take a quick break. So, Colbjorn, for those that aren't in the know, what is there to know about you?
What to know about me? I am a junior here at Virginia Tech in sports media and analytics, and I mean that's about it. I love all sports, man.
Yeah, good stuff. Short but sweet there. And then finally joining us in the call screener area, he will be reading your texts. This is Colby Talley. Reminder, guys, if you have any thoughts on the matter, you can hit us up in the YouTube live chat, or you can also text in at 540-216-2231. So, Colby, welcome aboard. And what do you have to say on our very first inaugural episode?
All right. Well, I am Colby Talley. I am a third year in SMA. I'm from the Richmond area, a tortured Steelers fan, and I'm very honored to be the call screener for the first inaugural broadcast of 3304 Daily.
Yeah, man, we're definitely happy to have you aboard. So, a lot to get into today on our very first show. I really do just want to dive right into it because I don't think that there's anything better to start out a radio show with than the fact that we just had probably the best round of divisional playoff football that I can remember. Now, when I was thinking about how I wanted to start off the show today, I mean, I thought of it this way. You remember great playoff games. I don't think you remember great playoff rounds. And, I mean, I kind of just want to run through each of the 4 games we got this weekend. Just kind of give a quick recap, get everyone's thoughts on them. And when we start off on Saturday, we start off with Cincinnati, we start off with Tennessee. I mean, Cincinnati just has so much stuff. I think it really is what it comes down to. Joe Burrow is really, really good. They're really young. They're really exciting. They're easy to root for. And they're already all the way to the AFC Championship game. But, man, they got to get him some protection because, geez, how do you win a football game and your quarterback gets sacked 9 times? I mean, that just makes no sense to me. On the Titans side, I mean, their defense didn't get, blown out the whole day. It really just came down to the fact that Ryan Tannehill just could not make the plays and threw 3 interceptions, including a bad throw in a bad spot at the end of the game that allowed Cincinnati to be able to get a field goal for the win. So Tennessee, I think, in the offseason has some questions there on where to upgrade. But, game came down to the wire. Maybe not the most exciting game offensively, but, coming down to the wire was still very exciting. Probably the shock of the postseason, though. Later that night, you got San Francisco, the 6th seed. Had to wait until week 18 to get into the playoffs. Now they're 1 game away from the Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo is the epitome of why win-loss record does not matter because, I mean, he's making the plays when he needs to. He's that kind of quarterback, but we all don't think of him as some, great QB. Doesn't have that many, great assets. He's not really that great of a talent. But, I mean, the defense balled out in the cold weather. It looked like Green Bay could just march on them all the way down the field, especially after that first drive. But they hung in there and they come out with the win again at the end of the game. And then moving on to Sunday, I mean, just 2 back-to-back thrillers. You think that Tampa Bay is just going to be trounced out, and then they make this incredible comeback, and then Matt Stafford just in the last 30 seconds is like, nope, I'm not going to be Atlanta. And then they get another win, and then probably the game of the week, game of the year, honestly. Sunday Night Football, you've got Bills, Chiefs. Just pure artistry on display from probably the two best quarterbacks in football, the two highest paid quarterbacks in football, deservedly so. Um, and I mean, my main takeaway from that game is that overtime rules need to be changed, man. No reason to think that the Bills should just not have the ability to possess the ball again, especially after how Josh Allen played. He threw 9 touchdowns in 2 playoff games. It's ridiculous how well he played, and he's out. So, just want to get my quick thoughts on all of it. I want to throw to my co-host for the day, Julian. Just what were your thoughts watching an incredible round of football, and is there any chance that championship round can live up to the hype?
I mean, obviously the championship games are 2 rematches, so there's a lot to look for with that. But I think this weekend I don't think we'll ever get a better weekend of football than we got this weekend. Starting off on Saturday, right, with a game where Cincinnati breaks all the rules. They lose in the trenches, and Tennessee really won a lot of their individual matchups. If you look at AJ Brown, he had a really good day against Chidobe Awuzie, the corner for the Bengals, who's had a great year this year. I thought that Tennessee really they did everything to win this game. It's just their quarterback couldn't make the throws. So this offseason is going to be interesting in Tennessee, whether they look to upgrade at that position. Ryan Tannehill really has underachieved with the amount of talent that he has around him. Then we go to Saturday night, where we have the Packers and the Niners. Aaron Rodgers really looked like invincible after that first drive. I thought it was a really good script by Matt LaFleur. Really put his team in a great position after that first drive. But the Niners defense just locked in. You want to talk about a dominant performance by the defensive line, just playing with that uniformity of attitude, getting upfield, making those big plays. Nick Bosa really had a great day. Obviously, the strip sack that didn't get a turnover, but it forced the Packers to get a field goal, which ended up being blocked at the end of the first half. I thought that was a big play, big turning point in that game. And obviously the big headline for the Packers is their special teams. They didn't give up any points on defense, but right after in the fourth quarter, they had a block punt that was returned for a touchdown, and the blocked field goal really cost them in this game. We move on to Sunday. Obviously, the Rams, I thought, were the much better team on the whole. The Buccaneers, obviously, they had a really some great plays by, especially in Ndamukong Suh, to get that strip fumble at the end of the game to get it all tied up. But when you playoff football is all about matchups, and when you look at the Rams roster, they have a lot of guys who can win in those matchups. Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham, Von Miller, Aaron Donald. These guys who are just dominant players. And when you have those guys who can swing the math in your favor like that, that's what happens. Even when you do fumble the ball 4 times, you still are able to come out on top. Then obviously we move to probably the game, one of the best games I've ever seen, maybe the best game I've ever seen, between Mahomes and Allen, the Bills and the Chiefs. It's a shame, really, that the overtime rules prevented us from having even more of that game, because, to tell you the truth, I haven't had that much fun watching a football game in ever, really. That was just such a great game. I thought that, the Bills secondary, which was the strength of their team, kind of got exposed. Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill really, against the number 1 defense in football, they showed their skills. They balled out.
No, yeah, it was crazy. I mean, we're talking about how overtime rules can change, and there's one take that really is just driving me insane. It's this whole, oh well, they should have just stopped them in overtime. I think the correct way to phrase that take is really more, oh well, you should have stopped them when they had 15 seconds left, or 13 seconds left on the final drive when they had 2 timeouts and they played this prevent defense that they were able to get in field goal range for. I think that's the way you should approach it, rather than just say, oh, they should have stopped them in overtime. No, neither team was going to stop the other one. Whoever got the ball first. Yeah, I don't know. Ryan, I want to get your thoughts on this, and then I wanted to move on to a question about some of the games. And I know you've got a couple of questions here as well before we hit the bottom of the hour and the break. So Ryan, I want to throw it over to you.
Yeah, I mean, this weekend of football had pretty much everything possible happen, right? I mean, we saw a team that got sacked 9 times move on. We saw a team that didn't score an offensive touchdown in the football game move on. Now, in this Bills-Chiefs game, the people that are saying, yeah, you should have stopped them with 13 seconds left, it's Patrick Mahomes, man. Patrick Mahomes is one of the biggest gamers that the sport's seen in the past 10 years. I mean, this guy is incredible, and it's easier said than done to stop the guy with 13 seconds left with all the weapons that he has, and especially when the Bills went back and prevent defense like they did. That's just not going to work when you've got a guy like Tyreek Hill that's going to, slip through that coverage and gain an extra 10, 15 yards. And then you've got arguably the best tight end in football in Travis Kelsey, and all they needed to do was get in the field goal range, right? So this game, I hate that Josh Allen, after the coin toss, had to just sit there and watch it. It was out of his hands at that point. One of the greatest performances we've seen, in a long time. Both of the quarterbacks had insanely good performances. And the fact that one of them had to sit back and watch the other one win the football game and not have a chance to, come back and try and even that game up, it just stinks to think about that. I mean, the overtime rules obviously need to change. The Bills should have gotten a stop. You got to trust your defense in that situation and get you the ball back. But, when a defense like that is struggling like they were, for the quarterback that just had one of the best games of his career to sit back and just have to watch that, it just doesn't sit right with me.
No, I agree with you there. I mean, it's still just insane to think about that game had as many lead changes as it did in just the final 2 minutes. I think it was like 25 points scored in the last 2 minutes. It's crazy. And then, I mean, just again, I keep going back to Cincinnati. Saturday had two just wild stats. Like, you get sacked 9 times. That's a playoff record, and you come out with a win. That shouldn't happen. And then also not scoring an offensive touchdown. That shouldn't happen either. But those two teams are in their respective championship games now. I do want to focus, though, a little bit on one of the more obscene takes, I would call it that, from the weekend. And it has to do with Saturday. It has to do with Green Bay losing. And, obviously, their last 3 years under Matt LaFleur, they've won 13 games each season, I believe. They just can't get it done. They can't get to the Super Bowl. They can't win the Super Bowl. And Aaron Rodgers, I mean, rumors have been flying for years now that he's getting out of Green Bay, and this seems like the perfect time to do it. And I believe he will be gone. Just seeing the take that Green Bay has failed with Aaron Rodgers, and going back to Brett Favre, that with, lucking into back-to-back Hall of Fame QBs, it's hard enough to get one. But you get two back-to-back, and you have 30 years of just incredible quarterback play, and you only get 2 Super Bowls. And a lot of people are considering that a failure, and I'm hearing people say, oh, I'd rather be a Lions fan than that, and just stink all the time rather than get it twice and, come up close and just come short every other time. Like, are you crazy? If they hadn't won the Super Bowl ever, maybe I would consider that. Like, if you want to take the Buffalo Bills route and say, hey, I would rather, just lose all the time rather than go to 4 straight Super Bowls and come up short every time. I mean, maybe, but they actually won some rings. I think this is a ridiculous take. And I think everyone just wants to be Tom Brady. I think everyone wants Tom Brady on their team. They want to make the Super Bowl every year. They want to win the Super Bowl every year. When he was in his prime in New England. But, again, I don't know how this Green Bay, it's underachieving, absolutely. I mean, Aaron Rodgers should retire with more than one Super Bowl if he wants to have a legacy, but just even getting one is so hard, man. I really don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, how many quarterbacks are failures, or how many Super Bowls does a Hall of Fame quarterback need to win in order to be considered a great? I really don't know. I mean, Julian, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what Tom Brady and Bill Belichick did in New England, I think it's kind of conflated the sort of position that people have on this, because what they've done is unprecedented, or what they did was unprecedented. 6 rings within about a 20-year span. It's never been done before, all by the same coach and same quarterback. I think that obviously when you win 13 games in 3 seasons in a row and you come up short and you don't reach the pinnacle, obviously there's disappointment, and absolutely within the fan base, I'd say there's a disappointment. Even if they do keep Rodgers after this year, their team is $50 million over the cap heading into this offseason. So there's going to have to be a lot of turnover on the roster. Guys like Zadarius Smith, Devontae Adams, they are free agents. They're going to look somewhere else to get paid, because Green Bay just doesn't have the money this year. And it's if as a Packers fan, which I'm not, but as a Packers fan, I could understand being extremely frustrated given how many resources were devoted to this team, this version of the team, and they sacrificed some of their future to do that. So yeah, I mean, absolutely, Aaron Rodgers has underachieved. When you look at the talent of this roster, when you look at the talent of that he has, just that play on the deep shot to Devontae Adams where he threw it into double coverage. The Niners did a really good job of confusing him there, and if he hits Alan Lazard over the middle, that game might be different because he was open on that play. But there's just a lot to be upset about if you're a Packers fan after this weekend. And it's a shame because this team did a lot in the regular season to impress.
Yeah, no doubt. Before we hit the break in a couple minutes, Ryan, I want to hit you up. I want to hit up your thoughts. I want to get. I know you have a couple of questions you want to ask us before we get to break here, and then bottom of the hour we're going to get to Colby and we're going to get to his segment, and then also to your text with Colby. All right, so Ryan, take us out here to break.
Yeah, obviously you got to be a little bit disappointed in the fact that great quarterback play for the past 30 years and you only get 2 rings, but I think there's more of the blame should be placed on some of the decisions that were made in the front office in handling Aaron Rodgers. When you look at that draft class, when they took Jordan Love, other than getting him some help at receiver, to this day, I still struggle with the logic behind that. And I think that was one of the straws that broke the camel's back with Aaron Rodgers and his relationship with the Green Bay Packers, because you're talking about a guy that's still putting up MVP numbers, and they get a guy to start grooming behind him. I just didn't understand that pick. Instead of trying to get him some help and get him a real distinguished number 2 wide receiver outside of Devontae Adams. And I think a lot of people focus on maybe the controversy of Aaron Rodgers, the failures he's had this season, not beating the 49ers. But I think you've got to look at some of the other decisions that were made and some of the stuff that might have, accumulated into what's happening now. There's a lot that goes into this. And I think some of that has came to where the Packers are now. So I don't think you can blame Aaron Rodgers for everything, because there's a lot of decisions that were made that maybe, brought this to a head.
Yeah, no, I like what you're saying there. What else did you have real quick because I know you have a couple questions about the other games before we get to break here.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the Bengals, this is a team that's playing with supreme confidence. That they're playing with swagger. They've got arguably one of the coolest quarterbacks in the NFL. This is a team that got sacked 9 times in the last game. Can they hold up enough to not only get to the Super Bowl but win the Super Bowl?
Yeah, that's a good question, Ryan. And I think that there's a lot to cover when it comes to this Chiefs-Bengals matchup. When you look at the Chiefs' defensive line, Chris Jones, Melvin Ingram, Frank Clark, these guys can win with power and speed up front. And when you're comparing that to the Bengals offensive line, the Chiefs defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, his whole mindset is to find the weak link. And we saw in the Bills game how Spencer Brown, even though Josh Allen covered up for it, Spencer Brown got beat pretty badly on multiple plays in the previous game. I think if they can find the weak link for the Bengals, which is probably on the right side of the offensive line, I think they can find that Joe Burrow is just not the same athlete that Josh Allen is, even though he's a phenomenal young talent. I'd say that I'd be in favor of the Chiefs for this matchup. I just think they have a lot more talent in that area, and obviously on offense they're more explosive than the Titans because of who they have under center.
The fascinating contrast I think is going to really be like, look at Joe Burrow next week, and then look at Patrick Mahomes next week. Like Cincinnati's pass rush, like Trey Hendrickson is a really good football player, but Kansas City has one of the best pass blocking offensive lines in the league. So Mahomes is going to be able to sit back and sit pretty, I think, most of the day, while Joe Burrow is going to be running around. It's going to look like Patrick Mahomes in last year's Super Bowl. If Cincinnati was to come out of that game, I think I would feel more confident in saying they can win the Super Bowl. I really like them. I really, really do. But, I mean, I don't know if they're Buffalo level. And Buffalo was able to punch up to Kansas City last night. And I think they'll give them a good fight, but I think you can just get away from them late. All right, let's move on here, and then we can hit break.
Yeah, this Bucks and Rams game, I personally was watching it, and I turned it on when I got home, and I saw the score and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go get some homework done. And I just checked my phone to see what the score was later on, and the game's tied up. It was 27-6 at the time. Tom Brady, despite the loss, does anybody stand up to him as maybe the best come from behind quarterback of all time?
Tom, you're asking me Tom Brady, best come from behind quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate it, but and he's done it longer and he's done it in more meaningful games. I would need to pull up a chart. I mean, I'm assuming he's up there in terms of game-winning drives, come from behind drives, fourth quarter comebacks, all that. So sure, absolutely. I mean, yeah, definitely. But I mean, hey, Matt Stafford kind of showed you last night that he is also one of the best quarterbacks, and he's been doing that for a while. Doing it in a lot of games in Detroit. Granted, those games really didn't end up meaning anything, but no, of course he's one of the best of all time. Do we think he retires? I really don't think so. I mean, I know that everyone was like, oh, he hasn't committed, but I don't think he's done. I really do think he plays to 50.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at what Brady, I don't think as an all-time great, as a competitor that we know Tom Brady to be, I don't think he's comfortable going out like this. So, he's 44 years old right now. He'll be 45 next year. Obviously, his longevity is unprecedented at the position for any football player, really. But, I think he'll run it back. Obviously, when you look at the Buccaneers this offseason, they committed to this team, this version of the team, just like the Packers did. They wanted to run it back. They returned all 22 starters from the Super Bowl team last year. And now when you look, they're all pro center. Ryan Jensen, he is a free agent this summer. Chris Godwin, their Pro Bowl receiver, who's gotten over 1,000 yards this season. He's really the key to their offense in the slot. He's gone. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to think about when you consider the Buccaneers' future this offseason, along with Brady's future.
All right, we're going to take a break here. We're coming up against it at the other end of the break, bottom of the hour. We're going to welcome in Colby Bergstrom and your text. Stick around, everyone.
Now over to Atkinson Jr. driving on Aluma. Trying to get to the basket. Spins around, takes the jump shot, and hits it. So Irish lead 2-0. Hokies with the ball now. Pass inside to Aluma. Working. Takes the shot, and he hits it. Keve Aluma already getting started for the Hokies. Tries to back him down. Still trying to back him down. Takes the shot and gets it to go. Justin Mutz with the big boy bucket.
Down low into the right block. Mutz working on Leshevsky. Mutz has the weight advantage and height. Backs him down and puts it in. Flexes on him in the process as well. 13-35 Hokies bring it within 5. Naheem Aline tests his luck from downtown, and the lead is now down to 2. Naheem Aline is a flamethrower tonight, folks. 75-73. He missed it again. Bacon for all in Blacksburg, and the Hokies are still up 2 with 42 ticks to go. Murphy wants to go ISO. 12 seconds on the shot clock. 26 to go on the game clock. Left wing Couture. Right wing Murphy. Pump fake the 3. Steps into another one. He hit it. 78-73. Virginia Tech with a 5-point advantage with 20 seconds to play. Hub picks up the basketball at the last second. Quickly moves down the lane. He's denied by Mutz. Rebounded by Aluma. The Hokies are going to walk out of Blacksburg with a victory for the first time in ACC play this season. 79-73, still a 2-possession game for the Irish. Goodwin, the ACC 3-point leader in percentage, missed it. Rebound, Cormac Ryan, he put it up. He missed it. Rebound, Hunter Couture, and this one's over. Virginia Tech 79, Notre Dame 73. Virginia Tech is no longer winless in ACC play and snaps Notre Dame's 6-game winning streak in the same sweep.
And hello and welcome to Castle Coliseum as the Virginia Tech Hokies prepare to play host to their Commonwealth counterparts, the Virginia Cavaliers, on the hardwood for the first time since February of 2020. It out Kiana Traylor, now down low to Liz Kitley. She pump fakes back out to Traylor, pulls up for 3 from the right wing, got it! Kiana Traylor bang from the corner, 18-12. Virginia Tech now has a 6-point lead. London Clarkson now top of the key, out to Caden Lawson on the left wing, working on Emily Lytle. Lawson drives down low. Lawson still working out to Twa, who pulls up from the right wing and drills it. Money from 3 for Twa, the Cavaliers leading scorer. They're within 3 with 8:08 remaining in the quarter. 8 seconds on the shot clock. Lawson drives down low, puts it up for 2. No. Rebound is on to Baines, who's quickly working the way down the floor for Virginia Tech. 15 and White. No look dish to Georgia Amor, who puts it in for 2 off the glass. Beautiful pass there by Azana Baines, the Duke transfer, and Tech's back up by 5. Amor, top of the key, working on Taylor Valladay. Hands it off to Liz Kitley, swings it up to Azana Baines. Keanu Trailer, top of the key, hands it off to Liz Kitley, who once again gets it off to Asia Shepard, who fires a 3 from the left wing and drills it. Asia Shepard is money from downtown, and Tina Thompson has seen enough. Timeout Virginia, timeout Cavaliers.
The ball back to Amor, and she's pushing the ball. She's got Baines. She goes back out for 3 for King, and it is good for 3. Takes it out. It hits it to Shepard. Shepard at the top of the key, and she will hit a 3 right there as Shepard will make only her second 3 of the game. King to Shepard cutting. Shepard takes a step back to King. King for 3! As Valladay goes in once again over Kitley, and Kitley gets a block, and the rebound for the double-double. Has 6 blocks now. Everyone's pumped up.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Those 2 calls you heard were courtesy of 3304 Sports. That was Nick Brown and Joey Robertson on the men's basketball call from the Notre Dame game on January 15th. And then the second call you heard was from Carter Hill and Ethan Owens from Virginia Tech versus UVA women's basketball. All right, bottom of the hour. All right, I want to throw it out to Colby Talley before we get into Colby Run segment. Colby, do we have any texts, any YouTube live chats, anything you want to read out here?
All right, we have one message on Google Voice. A little bit of something that we haven't really been talking about on the show, but it's a message nonetheless. What can the god-awful Jets do to fix their situation? And is Mike White the answer at quarterback over Zach Wilson?
That is honestly a great question. I think that's a question for our pal Evan Hughes. What can the Jets do? Honestly, I don't hate what they did this season. They won some games. I think I haven't followed their situation that closely, but I mean, I feel like solid could be a good step in the right direction. I liked their offseason a year ago, building some offensive line pieces. I really don't know. Just keep building, get better personnel. That's what it comes down to. You're playing in the AFC East, get guys on defense that can slow down Josh Allen to the best of their ability and give Zach Wilson some offense. That's what I've got for you.
Yeah, as a Jets fan, this one hits home pretty hard.
So you can answer this question a lot more honestly than I can.
Yeah. You know, I think Joe Douglas, the general manager of the Jets, has done a good job investing in the trenches. Obviously with Mekhi Becton, Elijah Vera Tucker, getting Laurent Duvernay-Tardif from the Chiefs this season. I thought he played really well towards the back end of the year. Obviously, Quinnen Williams is a really nice young piece to have on the defensive line, and hopefully Carl Lawson comes back healthy next year. But, you know, I think the Jets, all is not bad. They have obviously 2 picks in the top 10 in this upcoming draft, which I know we're going to hit on later. And then 2 picks in the second round of the top 10 of the second round as well. So there's a lot, and top 5 cap space as well. There's a lot of resources that are available to improve the team this offseason. So we could be looking at a Bengals-esque leap next year if everything goes right.
I don't hate it. All right, the first text ever in the history of 3304 Daily, it goes to a sad Jets fan. What a way to start out. All right, thank you, Colby. I want to welcome in Colby Bergstrom. He is our segment producer for the day. Give him about 10-15 minutes. Colby, what do you got for us?
All right, I'm going to give us a little bit of some more football questions here, and then we'll lead you guys into college basketball ended up. I want to start out here first. A little bit of a preview for the next weekend. It's going to be something that will be talked about a good bit this week. But as Julian even prefaced, both these games are rematches. So what can we take from the original matchups when looking ahead to this weekend?
Julian, why don't you take this one? I haven't really thought about the Chiefs Bengals game yet.
Sure. So obviously, in the NFC, we have a divisional round 3 matchup. So these 2 teams have played each other twice, and the Niners really, in the first game, just dominated from start to finish. Matthew Stafford had a really bad day at the office, and then the second matchup, again, the Rams, they jumped out to an early lead, but Jimmy Garoppolo, Deebo Samuel, the 49ers run game really got after the Rams in the second half of that game. And made that game closer than it should have been, and they made enough plays to win to get into the playoffs. And the Rams didn't get rid of that demon, and now they have to face it again in the conference championship for the right to get in the Super Bowl. I think for that game, I don't really read too much into either of those matchups. Matthew Stafford was phenomenal last weekend against a really good defense. I think that it'll be no doubt a great matchup. Obviously, when you look at both rosters, there's stars everywhere. For the Niners, you have arguably the best left tackle in the NFL in Trent Williams. You have an elite offensive weapon in Deebo Samuel. And then you also have arguably the best tight end in the NFL in George Kittle. So there's a lot to look for with that matchup. If you ask me who to pick, I'd lean towards the Rams just because they have even more of those guys that are game wreckers, game changers on both sides of the ball. And then when you look at the AFC, there was it was a one-off game in Cincinnati. I thought the Chiefs did a really poor job of tackling. Jamar Chase, he had a couple of just run after the catch, just him being that talent that he is, being able to find the end zone, even from 60 yards out. So I think that the Chiefs have to do a better job of tackling when it comes to that game. I think the Bengals, they won't have home field advantage, which probably played a big part. I know the Chiefs had a couple of big penalties in that game first time around. I just don't think that the Bengals have the horses to compete with the Chiefs for a full 60-minute playoff game. I think the Chiefs defense, that was really the only bad game they played in the second half of the year. So yeah, I'd lean Chiefs in that matchup.
I just pulled up their stat sheet for a little comparison against Tennessee. They sacked Joe Burrow 4 times, and they still gave up over 460 passing yards. 266 of those to Jamar Chase. I mean, I can't say that that's going to happen again, especially in a different home environment, because that game was in Cincinnati. But it came down to the end. Another Evan McPherson game-winning field goal. So I don't know. Maybe it could be close. I mean, Chris Jones had 2 sacks. I mean, I could expect him to get that again, but that doesn't seem to phase Joe Burrow, apparently. He can get sacked, and you can beat him up, and it just does not matter, apparently. On the other side of things, oh man, who to take in this one? It's a good matchup. Like you said, stars everywhere. Only thing I would say to San Francisco is don't leave Cooper Kupp open. That's really it. Let's throw to Ryan, and then let's get to Colburn's next question here.
I think the argument for the Bengals in this football game is look what Gabriel Davis just did to the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, it was maybe one of the best receiver performances we've ever seen in the playoffs from not even the Bills' top receiver. I mean, Stephon Diggs was basically non-existent other than that 2-point conversion. Gabriel Davis tore up that secondary. He literally had a route that made a guy, turn in circles and then fall over. So I think there's potential here for Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase to have another game like they had a couple weeks ago. But in order for the Bengals to win this game, they're going to have a similar performance for both of those guys. Because even with that 446 yards and 4 touchdowns from Joe Burrow and 266 yards and 3 touchdowns from Jamar Chase, the Bengals relied on a last-second field goal to win that football game. So I think in order for the Bengals to win this game and even keep it competitive, they're going to have to play their best brand of football. They're not going to be able to have an offensive performance like they did against the Titans because, like Julian touched on earlier, there's a different man under center. You're not going to have costly turnovers like Tannehill had. I remember the Titans had a big run and by Derrick Henry, and they followed it up with a tip pass interception. So those mistakes are not going to be made in this football game. So the Bengals are really going to have that replicated production, maybe not at the highest clip like they did in the previous matchup, but they're really going to have to produce in order to keep this game competitive.
Before my next question, I do want to say I think one thing that we can all agree upon is that Cincinnati has a better receiving trio, at least at the moment, comparatively to Buffalo. And with how much that Kansas City secondary can get torn up, I don't even think it has to be Jamar Chase necessarily. It could be T. Higgins or it could be Tyler Boyd having big games. Boyd 2 years ago was our number 1. So, I mean, I don't know. That's a big game I think to look forward to. But moving on to really look more into the other matchup, there is a little bit of a curse of the rule of 3 in the NFL in particular of if these teams are going to meet up 3 times and it's a sweep during the regular season, it's not really going to go the same way in the playoffs. So is it fair for San Francisco fans or neutrals to be really looking at that rule of 3 in this game?
I think honestly, the one thing that I'm looking at is, can George Kittle, reemerge? He's had a bad couple last weeks. Just hasn't really been a factor in the receiving game. Uh, if San Francisco can lean on him a little bit more, I think that can really spell things for Los Angeles. I think it's going to be a close game no matter what. I don't think Jimmy G plays spectacularly, but if George Kittle can, add another component to it, and you have Debo Samuel, you have that running game that Shanahan loved to scheme up. You throw in Brandon Ayuk every once in a while. Obviously San Francisco is dangerous. Am I going rule of three alone and saying, oh, Los Angeles is a shoo-in? No, I'm not, because just last week, week 18, when San Francisco needed to win, Matt Stafford kind of blew the game. Now, obviously, this is a different situation. Then was, the Rams were already in the playoffs, maybe not playing as, we need this game. But I don't know. I'm not going to say right away that this is a Rams win, no doubt. I really think that San Francisco could pull this one out and they could sweep them all 3 games this year.
Yeah, I think obviously in the Packers game, I thought that the Packers played. Rashawn Gary played a really great game. He got after that right side of the Niners offensive line. I think you could look at Von Miller to do the same. If you're a Rams fan, this upcoming weekend, use that elite speed and get off the edge to really impact the game. If looking back, I think obviously the Niners really found the weaknesses in the Rams. The Rams just roster. When you look at their linebackers, Troy Reader had a big mistake yesterday that led to the Leonard Fournette touchdown. He missed the tackle in the hole. And then, Nick Scott played a great game for the Rams when he had that interception off of Brady in the first half. But, I like George Kittle against Troy Reader and the Rams safeties. So if Jimmy Garoppolo can just be accurate over the middle of the field, I think it gives the Niners a really good chance to win this game. But, at the end of the day, it just comes down to who's going to win the line of scrimmage, in my opinion, in that matchup. So
I'm going to push back because I think Matthew Stafford is playing much, much different than his regular season in this playoff run. I mean, you look at his last 3 games of the regular season, 7 interceptions in his last 3. He has 0 turnovers in the playoffs. So I think Matt Stafford is on a mission. This is his chance to really prove himself as an elite quarterback, and I think he is doing that. And I don't think Matthew Stafford is going to be denied on his route to the Super Bowl. And I think, it's going to be a good game. The Niners are not really a good matchup for anybody. They're a hard matchup. They're hard to match up with. I mean, they've got, one of the best offensive tackles in football, as well as one of the best, pass rushers in football. So they don't, and obviously the utility weapon in Debo Samuel. So they don't match up. They're a matchup problem for just about everybody. But I do think the Rams are going to take this one home, albeit it will be a competitive football game.
I mean, I do want to roll into here as well. Looking at the playoffs as a whole is what you guys started with. So I did also want to look at the playoffs as a whole here. And as of the moment, who has been the MVP of the playoffs? I think there might be a consensus here. But...
I mean, I would say Josh Allen. I know he's not in it anymore, but his play was absolutely, it was stupid good, is how good it was. So I'm going to go with him. I know he's not in it anymore. Obviously, you got to get to the conference championship game. If not him, I would go Mahomes just because he's there. But I would say Josh Allen. Josh Allen was playing just incredible football.
Yeah, when you look at his numbers, 9 touchdowns in 2 games, didn't make a single turnover, completely dominated Bill Belichick's defense in the wild card round, and put up another phenomenal performance against the Chiefs. For me, I'd lean Joe Burrow just because of what he is surrounded by in terms of up front. He has been, getting put on his butt for 2 straight weeks now, and he's still come out on top. I think it was really impressive what he did against the Raiders. Max Crosby is a premier edge rusher in this league. He had a great season, and his story is also great. I think that I'd lean Joe Burrow just because of what he means to that Cincinnati Bengals, not just on the field, but in the locker room, and just his overall presence to that team, the confidence he gives them, the swagger he gives them when they're on the field.
Yeah, I think you could make an argument for a lot of guys. I think you can make an argument. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes, you don't have to make much of an argument for him. He's been outstanding. You could make an argument for Matt Stafford. I think he would have more of a case if they let him cut it loose a little bit more against Arizona, which they didn't need him to do. He only threw 17 passes in that game. But I think the answer is Pat Mahomes. I like Joe Burrow too. I think that's a great choice. Like you said, it's not only his on the field but off the field impact. He really has that team glued together, and he's playing great football behind, a very questionable offensive line. So I think there's a lot of arguments, but I think Patrick Mahomes is probably the right answer. But Josh Allen fought till the very end and had to, let the coin flip decide his fate in that game. So you could make an argument for a lot of guys, but I'd probably go Pat Mahomes.
Colby, before we move on here, just give me a name. Who do you think was the MVP of the playoffs so far?
Who I think is the MVP? I kind of have to agree with Allen. I mean, I just read something here that said he is one. I think he's the only quarterback ever to throw 9 touchdowns, no interceptions in a 2-game span. It's just, I can't go with anyone else.
I mean, there you have it.
Yeah, I mean, it's Allen or Mahomes for me. Both really just have been incredible for either side. 8 touchdowns, 1 interception for Mahomes, and 9-0 for Allen. Just incredible play. Last football question I have here is Mel Kiper recently released his first mock draft. My really question out of this, was there really any surprises, like players that went too high, players that went too low?
Well, I haven't got the chance to look at it. Throw some out. Like, where's the first quarterback? Give me a number when their first quarterback is. I'll tell you if that's too high, too low.
All right, the first quarterback goes at pick 11 into Washington football team, and it was Malik Willis.
He has Malik Willis number 1. Okay, that's my surprise. But it's Mel Kiper. I know he always does something like that. He'll probably drop him eventually when everyone starts to like Kenny Pickett, and he'll be like, "Oh, I always like Kenny Pickett." Give me the top 2 picks. Does he have both edge rushers?
I mean, come on, it's Hutchinson, Thibodeau. No way.
I don't know. Maybe he'd be like someone in, throw in Evan Neal or something, or Ikem McWanu from
Neal was third.
NC State.
No, Evan Neal's third, and then following Evan Neal, I believe was Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame. I think that's kind of like the consensus top 4 in this draft.
All right, and then give me the first receiver. Who's the first receiver?
The first receiver, this one was a surprise to me. It was not an Ohio State player. It was Drake London out of USC, going 10 to the New York Jets.
Okay, so yeah, as a Jets fan, I'd be really excited about Drake London. This guy had over 1,000 yards in 8 games for USC. Really physical receiver. He's 6'5", kind of built like a tight end, and he gets in and out of his breaks with some really good quickness and agility for someone of his size. I think if the Jets got him at 10, I think it would be a good value. This guy is one of the premier talents in the draft, and you just don't find receivers that are 6'5" that move like he does in space. So, yeah, I think that's a great pick for the Jets.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I get the Olave hype. I mean, he's a great player. Garrett Wilson too. But this is a guy that's got a frame. Like I'm reading an article right now. He's got the Mike Evans Plaxico Burress frame. Yep. I mean, with a young quarterback, you can't ask for anything else. 1,000-yard receiver that's got that frame. I mean, I think that's the right pick.
Colby, what would you say are some other highlights of that round?
Highlights of that round. I mean, I'll give you 2 that I think were a little bit low in my opinion. Devin Lloyd went at 15 to the Philadelphia Eagles. Among that, they also took, or McShay had them taking Arnold Ebiketie from Penn State following that, and then they also had Chris Olave at 19. And then, surprisingly enough, the third quarterback off the board following Kenny Pickett to the Saints was Matt Corral going to the Steelers, with the last quarterback of that round being Sam Howell to the Detroit Lions with the 28th pick.
Okay. To touch on the quarterbacks, I think that Matt Corral has a lightning quick release at Ole Miss. We've obviously seen him light up the SEC with the first 10-win season in school history this season. I thought he played really well. A lot of people made some comparisons to made him SEC Zach Wilson is what they tabbed him as. I think in terms of that lightning quick release, I think there is similarity, but when you look at their college careers, I don't think that's fair to Zach Wilson as a prospect. I think that, I might be a little biased as a Jets fan, but Matt Corral, he definitely, he has things to improve on. I think Lane Kiffin's offense makes reads very defined for quarterbacks. And at the next level, he might not find it that easy. I think he's actually a good fit with the Saints. I know they took Kenny Pickett in this mock, but that's just me. Then moving on to Sam Howell, obviously I saw him in person play Tech this year. And in this season in general, I thought he disappointed me a little bit. But obviously part of that has to do with the talent downgrade that he had with Michael Carter, Daz Newsome, Javante Williams, De'Ami Brown, all of them heading to the league. So I thought he improved as a runner and as an athlete, but as a passer, there just wasn't as much production. And part of that has to do with his the diminished talent of his weapons after those guys moved on to the NFL.
Yeah, I'm with you with Howell. I think he did what he could with what he had. I think the expectations, people were kind of blinded by the fact that, yeah, Sam Howell's returning, but look at who he lost. I mean, he lost 4 players to the NFL, his top 4 playmakers. So him and Josh Downs had moments that I think scouts saw and were like, that's what we're used to seeing from this guy. But I want to talk about somebody real quick that has slid down boards considerably because of the injury in the national championship game. But I think if he goes where it's projected, it's going to be scary. Jameson Williams at 21 to the Patriots. Him and Mac Jones, I think that'd be a scary combination. But I want to get your guys' thoughts on, like, did you expect him to slide this far? I know some people projected him top 15, top 10, and he slid down the board quite considerably. But I think that might be due to his injury.
Yeah, Dan, do you want to go ahead and hit that?
I mean, I'm not the biggest Mac Jones fan, but I will admit he does need some better receiving weapons, and Jameson Williams would definitely be, a good one. I mean, we all know that New England has a bad history with, drafting skill players. So I don't know. I like a lot of the names that Kuiper has here at the top. Honestly, these are guys that I like that are mocked in other places to go in the bottom half. So that just shows that they might be undervalued by certain people. But who knows? Maybe I'm right about them, and that would make me happy. One guy that I will say I think is way too low is George Karlaftis. I think that's a top 10 guy. I think he's a top 4 pass rusher, and he's going 23 to Arizona right before Dallas, who takes Travon Walker out of Georgia. I don't know how I'd feel about that one.
Right.
But I know I've got Colby Talley here. He wants to comment on his Steelers on the pick of they're getting Matt Corral. Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, that's why I'm yep.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. I just to ease the segue, I do agree with Karlaftis. I had him as like one of the Giants picks. I had him going to the Giants. But I was going to comment on the Matt Corral move. I like it. It's sort of like that, flashy pick that the Steelers usually tend to go for with their first round pick. But I don't know. He is kind of a project. As Julian said, he does have things to improve on. And I don't know if they draft project when they've lost the veteran that project would theoretically be learning from. And also, Steelers O-line is just awful. So my heart personally says Steelers should probably go for O-line because I just think the O-line class is a bit stronger, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think as a strategy, sticking with the strength of this draft, which is obviously the wide receivers, the edge rushers, and the offensive linemen. I think that would be a good idea for the Steelers. Because obviously Ben Roethlisberger this year was a shell of himself, to be honest. He just wasn't the guy that he was, I know, in the Super Bowl years. So yeah, I think, improving the infrastructure around what your future quarterback might be is, I think, the best move this year. I don't think there's a lot of value with the quarterbacks, especially where you're picking. You're going to be picking like the 3rd or 4th best quarterback in the draft, depending on, what teams do before you. So yeah, I totally agree with that for the Steelers. To get back to Ryan was talking about on Jameson Williams, I think this guy is an elite downfield threat. He can really stretch the field, and the Patriots really missed that this year. So if they were to end up with a guy like that, in addition to, a nice slot guy in Jacoby Myers, a really physical presence on the outside in Kendrick Bourne, I think it would bring a lot of balance to their receiving room. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that pick to the Patriots. Obviously, Mac Jones has some physical limitations with what he can do as an athlete and what he can do as a thrower of the football, but I think that would be a great addition to the Patriots.
Yeah, another team that has potential to get a big downfield that they need. The Eagles drafting Chris Olave at 19. I think the Eagles have potential to have the best draft class out of any team because how back to back their picks are here. They got 15, 16, and then 19, all in the first round. And the Eagles need something to make up for the failure of Jalen Reagor, a guy that they picked over Justin Jefferson. I know y'all have probably seen that video of the Vikings front office when they hear that Justin Jefferson was still going to be on the board when their pick came up, and that to me is one of the most baffling picks of all time. But they do have a chance to make up for that. As a Cowboys fan, I'm a bit concerned about that because Olave is very exciting to watch and a very talented football player. But I do think the Philadelphia Eagles have potential to have one of the best drafts out of any team in the NFL. But Dan, I've seen a couple of drafts where the Cowboys do pick Jordan Davis. I'm not sure if he falls that far, but I think that'd be a home run pick for the Cowboys. But I don't mind Trevon Walker, but I'd like to see Jordan Davis in the blue.
Well, a lot of guys that are being pegged right now. I mean, you're looking at your Jordan Davis's, Tyler Linderbaum, a lot of Nakobe Dean. I didn't see where he fell in Kuiper's just now, but I mean, the selling point there would be, you can just have Parsons and Dean. You can mix them up on who can cover, who can rush the passer. Honestly, I wouldn't hate Nakobe Dean, but at the same time, I want to see just Jabril Cox get on the field more. But who knows? Maybe you just draft Dean, you put Cox there, you let Randy Gregory walk, you let Parsons go with the quarterback all the time. I don't know. Jordan Davis, I would love. I honestly would, because I mean, just get a guy just put in the middle of the defense and you're not running on him. Linderbaum, I wouldn't hate either. I don't hate Tyler Biadasz, but Linderbaum is just a really, really good center prospect. So I wouldn't hate that one at all. Other than that, I mean, there weren't too many. His mock drafts are going to change. One thing that I will mention is that I really do think that the secondary class is kind of weak. I mean, obviously you got Kyle Hamilton, but then outside of that, cornerbacks, I mean, really, it's Stingley and Sauce Gardner for me. Outside of that, I'm not too high on anybody else. But yeah, I mean, I think that's really where we want to get to the end of today's show. I mean, that segment went longer than we thought, but hey, I mean, it's mock draft season, a lot of football talk. I think we left some stuff on the table. We can definitely move that over to tomorrow. So yeah, that's our first day, I think. Guys, I want to thank you so much for listening. Have a great day, everyone. Take care, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.